Hello and welcome to another SDA Q&A. I'm nervous for some reason. I don't normally get nervous. But musicians often, before you play music in front of people, the nerves kick in. But that's all right. That is part of the process. So welcome everybody, and I hope you enjoy today's improvised conversation about improvised guitar playing and how it relates and can be metaphorically connected with the gospel and understanding the gospel. I just need to check that you can hear the guitar. If someone watching could just let me know in the comments. Going live into platforms, playing guitar and having voice at the same time sometimes doesn't work so well. So if someone could just write in the comments, let me know if you can hear the guitar. Mark Anthony says yes, but is that yes? You can hear the guitar? Oh, good. We can hear it. Hey, Blake. It's a good point you make there about warming up. So this is me doing something I love doing, and that's playing the guitar. And one thing I noticed when I have been chatting about people loving the gospel but keeping the law, I discovered that I don't think they really understand what it is to truly love something. And because at a young age I fell in love with playing the guitar, it was natural for me to pursue it and to follow it and to dig deep and to, yes, realize there are laws that apply with guitar playing. And so I found that analogy of understanding how the law works, but how to love something, and therefore how to get better at it because you love it, and to learn more about the law and the physics of it because you love it, and because they are natural laws. I grasped that concept of how with the guitar and the gospel, the two can apply, and how understanding the law is not how you should fall in love with the guitar, but how it is part of the process of learning and playing the guitar. And so if I approach playing the guitar just by the law, just by the theory, and when I taught guitar, a lot of people did that. They, right, how do I play? What's this? How do I do that? And they would approach it that way. But eventually, as they fell in love with it, and some fall in love with it straight away, some people fall in love with it a bit later, just like the gospel. But when they do, they grasp this concept that the law, the theory, approaching it by, I must do this to get better at this, isn't the process. And by falling in love with it, you have an understanding of the law and you value the law and you apply the law. But following the law doesn't bring you into connection and relationship with your guitar or love of music. This applies to all things that you can fall in love with: hobbies, stamp collecting, playing the piano, playing the guitar, whatever it is. If you fall in love with it, you will get better at it, and you will realize that you may not become ever the kind of stamp collector, guitar player that gets you into guitar heaven, but you will understand the process of the law and love and enjoying the connection you have. And in this case, gospel, divine, guitar heaven. There's people watching today that are way better musicians than me. And there are people on the planet who play guitar that, like Tommy Emmanuel. There's someone alive on the planet at the moment who plays just so incredibly. But my level of guitar playing, his level of guitar playing doesn't matter in the sense of loving the guitar or getting to guitar heaven. Yes, the laws matter, but they aren't the thing that should be the focus to get you to a certain level. They're kind of just there naturally. The process I wanted to speak on a little bit today, and it'll probably be a short program today, is particularly with guitar playing and improvising. Those of you that understand what I'm talking about will understand that when you can improvise on the guitar, you enter into this zone where you almost no longer are knowing what you're doing. It's not evil. Don't worry about that. It's simply you've done the work which started with your love of the guitar, of the instrument, which led to you putting more time into it, which led you to understand the laws of the physics of the guitar, which led you to a place of knowing that when you got lost in the love of playing, you entered a zone where you didn't know what you were playing. And if you've never improvised before, you won't know what I'm talking about. And I'm suggesting that if you don't truly understand the improvisational nature of the gospel, you won't understand what the love of the gospel is. That's a bit of a bold statement. I'm not trying to come from a higher ground at all. I'm just saying that when you experience something that involves truly loving something, the penny drops. And if you're struggling with understanding the law and the gospel and commandments and getting to heaven, I'm just suggesting that you haven't truly fallen in love with the gospel. And when you do fall in love with it and you can improvise on the guitar and you get lost in it and you don't know what you're doing anymore, it doesn't mean that you're really great at it. There's no test to pass to be in love, to fall in love. You just be in love, and it kind of finds you. And I want to demonstrate a little bit of what I'm talking about with improvisation. I'll do that in a moment. But when I was 11, on my birthday, my parents said, "Oh, would you like to learn the guitar?" And I said, "Yeah, I would." I'd been wanting to since I was about 6. And I'm using my daughter's guitar. It's a 3/4 size nylon string guitar. But when I was 6 or 7, they didn't. Well, I didn't know about them. They didn't have these back then. They had the wider necked adult size guitars, and these are much easier for little kids to move their fingers around. So my fingers weren't really big enough to play guitar until I was about 10 or 11. So my parents said, "Would you like to learn guitar?" It was my birthday. I said, "Yeah, I'd love to." And they said, "Look under the couch." So I crawled down, looked under, and there was a beautiful guitar, nylon string, and I pulled it out, and immediately, because I'd understood music in the sense of loving music, fell in love with this notion of the gospel of guitar, that now I could actually hold it, make some sounds, enjoy it, maneuver my way through the joys of exploring and creating with this instrument that until that moment I'd never really held one before properly. And so I picked it up, and I just, I think I'd seen somewhere some kind of chord shape, and I started trying to make sounds, and they'd booked in lessons for me as well to start the next week with Kevin Clancy in Papatoetoe, Auckland, New Zealand. And so, yeah, I embarked on this journey, but it started with this immediate falling in love with this instrument, not knowing much other than the seed of the gospel. And I was lucky to be one of those ones that just grasped that it was an exploration of learning fueled by my love for it. And I remember going to my lessons, and he would teach me a chord, my Kevin Clancy. And I think the first one I learned was one I would teach everybody, the D chord. And he would show me this chord. And I would go home and I'd practice, and I'd make sure that my fingers were in exactly the right position. So I loved it, but now I was learning some of the laws. So I'd play like this, and he said, you have to strum 4 times. You have to have your thumb up like this, your finger out like this, and these 3 not tucked away, but like that. And you have to twist your guitar hand so that you go like this and count to 4. 2, 3, 4. All right. And if I noticed this, a little buzz, I'd stop, get it just right. 1, my thumb's up. 2, 3. And so initially I was approaching it a little bit from the law. The law will help me get better. I will improve if I follow the law. I did love it. And that's why I don't want to sound like there's some kind of higher moral ground. If you're into the gospel, no matter what version, no matter whatever way you look at it, you obviously love it. So I'm not challenging this. I'm challenging the notion of truly letting go to it and not letting the law control you in a Pharisaical way. And when you can let go of controlling your understanding via the Pharisaical way, you just simply open up a broader spectrum of falling in love with it. And I remember he would then tell me, right, now we're going to do another chord. And he would say, strum like that. Very good. You're following the law very well there, Peter. And he would say, the next chord is A7. And he taught me, and I'd place my fingers here, and I'd strum like this. And he said, right, now you have to change from one to the other. And you go like this, 1, 2, it's like a guitar lesson, 4. And then you quickly change with no gap between your counting. It has to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And I would go 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And I would spend hours trying to focus on this. And I remember I would play in the theory mind and learn, and the law is going to help me get better. I loved it. And then I would have fun just exploring this connection. And I remember one day just going, oh, I just want to hold my hand a bit different. Oh, that's good. And I'd take fingers off and, oh, what happens if I do that? Oh, right. Oh, 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 what if I do? Oh, and something broke in me. I just thought, oh, just let go, follow your heart, and away I went. And nature provides in us something that underwrites the law. There are natural things at play that you can hear when it's not right. So these are chords, and chords are notes played at the same time. A cluster of chords, this shape, is called D. And that's an F sharp, a D, and an A played at the same time. If you play a chord and put fingers in the wrong place, it sounds wrong. So as you explore loving the process and experimenting with the law and the theory, you will naturally gravitate by the natural laws of nature. They're not done away with. They're just naturally at play. So if you're experimenting and you're just following the gospel, that sounds good. Oh, no, maybe not. Oh, that one's good. There we go. Or you can go resolving it. No. There it is, right. The laws apply. And you will naturally know when they are discords and not working. And so you begin and you set sail on this journey. And I remember as I set sail towards understanding improvisational guitar, I needed a teacher, a guide, not just Kevin Clancy to show me, and perhaps his was more the law approach, but I needed someone to come along and whoosh away the Pharisees. And in the Gospels, the Christian finds and discovers Jesus comes along and says, look, yeah, here's these laws. They're part of nature. But follow me and you will see a new way. You will see how to put these laws into practice in a new way. And you will love your neighbor. You won't want to throw ad hominem attacks at them. You won't want to call them a tool of Satan. But if you do and you fail, still get back on the path and follow me. Follow the way. And then by example, Jesus demonstrated, turn the other cheek, love your neighbor, meekness. Do to others what you would want them to do to you. He infused the love of the gospel into the music of the law. and showed the way. Those who truly grasped the teaching and essence of Jesus laid perfume at his feet. They were the people that were most or least likely to be considered the right people. And so it goes with the analogy of music. You can get caught up in the theory and the law and lose sight of the flow, the zone, the love. So even though I fell into a little bit of the law at the start, I still loved it. And it's the love of the gospel that sets you free. It's the love of the guitar that sets you free. It's the love of the person that showed you the way. Now, this might be a crazy example, and I'm seeing some of the comments here. I'll come to in a moment when we wrap up, because today will be very short program. So my example might throw some of you a bit. Please don't lose sight of the essence of what I'm saying, the principle of what I'm saying. And this is just an analogy, a dialogue, entering into a discussion, learning, understanding, finding out from each other. I'm not saying you should follow my way or that there is a way that you must follow. I'm the opposite of that. I'm saying use your own mind. Look at the evidence of what people are saying. Test everything, what I'm saying as well, and draw your own conclusions. I did a program yesterday. For those who are expecting it tomorrow, I'll be away. So you might want to go back and watch one that I did last night, which is kind of replacing tomorrow's program. And I'll put the link there tomorrow as well. But I called it the 7 questions that pastors won't or can't answer publicly. And people were saying, well, what do you mean by publicly? You're saying only on your show, or why are you telling us what to believe? I'm not talking about these 7 questions and the theory and what they mean and what the beliefs are and whether they can be defended or not. I was pointing out, why can't people discuss this publicly within the Adventist system? And they can't, because they might lose their standing, their job. And so these were 7 questions that I wasn't expecting to say, right, this is what I think the answer is, and this is what you should think, or come on, you tell me what you think, and then challenge it. I'm talking about the essence, the understanding, the principle. What's behind the reason that those 7 questions can't be answered? And I think that people who haven't grasped the teachings of Jesus will fall back into this Pharisaical understanding, and they don't dig a bit deeper. And it doesn't mean they don't have the exact same love for it as I do or anyone, but they are going to be getting caught up in the murky waters of he said, she said, stop telling me what to do, what are you trying to say, false assessment. And my theory is that we chat, we talk about it, we have dialogue, we make mistakes. In the things I was just playing before, I made mistakes. Someone wrote, that sounds really beautiful. Thank you. And beauty doesn't have to be devoid of mistakes. And sometimes when my daughter was playing a song for me the other night, her face was just lit up. She was singing and playing. And she said, oh, I made a mistake. Don't worry. This is the thing that I think Des Ford was trying to say. The mistakes, we're sinners. You're going to make mistakes. That's okay. But a lot of Adventist theology leans into, points back to, tries to claim that it's the not making mistakes that get you somewhere. And that's a big misunderstanding of, in the analogy of the guitar, understanding the guitar, fearing making mistakes and thinking that I will get to a point where I won't make mistakes on the guitar is ludicrous. if you truly grasp this concept of loving the gospel, loving the guitar, you don't care about the mistakes. You know the laws apply. You know that you're trying to be better, but you don't seek the perfect performance, and neither does God seek the perfect performance from you. I hope that's helping and making some understandings and some light to be shared upon this topic, of which I have much to learn myself. So this analogy, this view I was talking about of learning improvisational guitar, the teacher that came along for me, that may shock some of you and think, what? But he's a flawed individual. Yes, he is. And I wouldn't follow his lifestyle. And by the time I met this person, he was dead. He was gone already. And I was watching TV, age 11, around the time when I started playing the guitar. And Tess the Prophet just wrote, I'll quickly bring it up because it adds to what I was just saying there. Live recordings have soul because of the mistakes. It's so true. And often to that point, if I go into the studio and ready, recording, you start getting really focused on not making a mistake. And the performance can be a little bit dry, paint by numbers sounding. And so, yes, so I'm watching TV. Lean into the mistakes. It's okay. Don't be afraid of them. That's when the magic can often happen. So I'm watching TV, age 11, and on comes, it must have been a documentary. And here is Jimi Hendrix playing his guitar live at Berkeley with some of the footage. So go and look up Jimi Hendrix live at Berkeley. In the analogy of Jesus to the Pharisees and me to understanding the letting go and loving the gospel of guitar, Jimi Hendrix was my teacher. I don't think I've ever sat down and tried to learn anything he did, note for note. Just broadly speaking, general chords, notes, improvisation. And he wasn't the only teacher, but he played in a way that showed me it was okay to make mistakes, and it was okay to fall in love with letting the Holy Spirit work through you. And the Holy Spirit works through you in this analogy by putting together all the pieces without you having to worry about it. So I want to just talk a little bit about improvisational guitar to further explain what I'm talking about. So what I'm doing now is playing chords and notes. Now, normally there'd be someone else playing the chords, keeping on going underneath while I improvised on top. But all the notes aren't planned, aren't rehearsed, aren't outlined before me on notes on a piece of paper. They're just flowing out from having an understanding of the law. Here's the irony. By understanding the laws of chords and playing in keys and patterns allows me to let go and improvise. And a lot of people, in whatever they do, seek this ability. Even people who are acting, pastors speaking, people playing golf, whatever it is that you do, we seek this mastery level of understanding theory, but letting go and enjoying it. I heard someone talk about tennis. Pre the game, they go. They'll hold the racket this angle, hit it this hard, the ball's that angle, practice, do that, boom. Still loving it. Don't do the practice of the law if you don't love it. Don't waste your time. You're not going to get anywhere if you think that following the law will get you to a place. You have to have this sense of love for it. You have to grasp the big picture. You need a Jesus or a Jimmy. I'm not equating the two and the same. This is the analogy, two separate stories. You need that people to show you that it's possible. And that's what you fall in love with. Oh, I might be able to do this. I can do it. Here we go. But don't think that, right, if I do it exactly like this and place my finger here, and I'm going to play this note exactly now, and I'm going to play it exactly like that you are going to grasp this freedom of improvising, of letting go into the Holy Spirit. So, with the chords underneath, I should have got Blake in here to play guitar while I could do lead. Just imagine that going underneath. Mistake. So that's an example of improvising where I'm not thinking, I've let go. Yeah, I'm applying the law, but I'm loving it. I'm in the flow. I'm living the gospel in the moment. I've got lots to learn. I can't even begin to play like even my mentor there that I mentioned, Jimmy or Tommy Emmanuel. I can't even imagine that I would ever get to that kind of level. So imagine if you're living your life thinking that you need to get to a certain level of mastery of commandments and law and gospel understanding to be loved and cherished by the Creator. Imagine living a life like that. So I've shared this, and probably quite badly, this understanding, this knowledge, this analogy of guitar and gospel and falling in love with it, warts and all. I've shared that because it really helped me to understand as I then grew up a bit and was a Seventh Adventist and was trying to understand how do I, I'm getting this idea that I'm needing to be keeping the law in a certain way to get to heaven. And I was able to go, no, no, no. The young me was able to go, hang on, look at how you love the guitar. Maybe it's the same. Loving Jesus, getting better at life because you're putting the time in, because you love it. And maybe it's not the theory and the practice and the law that earns you any brownie points, though they apply. That's why I, share this analogy. And many of you may push back on it. Great. Many of you may add to it. Brilliant. Some of you might learn something. Some of you might already know. But either way, I've enjoyed very much sharing this time with you today. And as I try and learn about life and where I've come from out of Adventism and looking back at it and just looking at all that kind of went on as I try and make sense of it, I'm so glad to be on this journey with you guys. People I agree with, disagree with, have a bit of robust biffo with in the comments. At the end of the day, we're just doing the best we can. And I hope that you find some way to learn how to improvise your instrument, to learn how to flow into your Bible study, to flow into your work, to flow into your relationships with a deep love for that which you are connecting with and involved with. And by grasping this notion of love and law, I think we'll all get on a bit better with each other. And I think life will be a bit more meaningful. And so why do I challenge and question my Adventist brothers and sisters? I think a lot of them understand the gospel and are free and fine with it. But I think they would benefit from grasping that their church, big picture, officially is trying to promote a living of one's life associated incorrectly and falsely with law keeping. And maybe by challenging, asking questions, having these conversations, they can simply think about it and hopefully gain a new insight and a freedom in realizing that there is no amount of law keeping that will get you to a point that you are loved more or can enter heaven more ably, or that they are even a requirement to do so. By just playing making mistakes, falling into the flow and love of your music, your gospel, will liberate you and just give you a life more abundant. There we go. That's my 2 cents on the guitar and the gospel. And thank you for staying with me. I'll just read a couple of comments that have been coming through and hear some of your thoughts, and then I'll say farewell in under an hour today. As I mentioned, I'm away tomorrow, but you can go back and watch my program I did last night. The 7 questions that an employed ordained pastor won't answer publicly. Check that out tomorrow in our normal time slot, if you like. No gospel, unfortunately, this week, unless I can work out from where I am at a festival. If I can work out maybe a Zoom on the phone and we can all just kind of hang out for a bit for half an hour. I'll see how we go with that. Watch this space. I'll post a link if I can do that. But next week, let me just bring that up. I can just quickly let you know what's on next week. Hal Southwell is going to do our gospel program next week. I've also got Brendan Valiant on October 22, our October 22, which is Tuesday, but Monday night for you guys. We've got Timur Kukolja coming on. Bill Fritz will be on next week. A week or two after that, we've got Reinda Bruinsma is going to be on. And I'm still trying hard to get Conrad Vine on, so that will be great. Okay, so let's look at some of these comments. But look, that's the end of the program if you guys want to head off. But I'm just going to look at some of the comments and read some of them and just see what you guys have been saying while I've been jamming away there. I said at the start I was a bit nervous, and Barb T wrote, "We all have those days, just wing it." Yeah, I think I did. John Kaler also said, "Just wing it. We're in." And Blake's watching. Blake pointed out, Blake and I would have done lots of gigs together, and he is the one who produced my Standing at the Cross album and did such a beautiful job on that. The QR code is there if people want to go and listen to Blake's beautiful arrangements and his incredible musicianship on that recording. So thank you, Blake, for that. And Blake pointed out earlier, I used to often warm up before gigs. What did I call it, Blake? He's mentioned it here, the spider walk or something, and the caterpillar walk. And that's an important point, that as you are enjoying and flowing into this love of guitar or the gospel, some practice is required. You do need to sit there and go, right, okay, I'm gonna learn a little bit about this and structure myself that. And there's nothing wrong with a Sabbath coming into it as well. A routine time when you set aside to focus on it. That's great as well. But that practice, that routine time set aside, doesn't get you any brownie points into heaven, but it gives you some brownie points on this earth to get better at your craft. James Andres wrote, "Ready for the new wave, the Australian bossa nova par excellence." And I didn't even play any bossa nova. Oh well, next time. Test the Prophet is watching. That's fantastic. And David Wilmoth wrote, "Somebody says bossa, yum." That's awesome. Test the Prophet. As a musician myself, I can see how the gospel could be compared to a motive that is woven into a symphony from beginning to end, ever enlarging and showing more beauty and depth. Very good. And Para Q Posamos says, "Hello, everyone. Nice topic." And other people are writing, "Hello." Oh, I'm glad you could hear that. Some people have said loud and clear. There's the spider scale. Mark Anthony wrote, "Peter, you missed B flat diminished in the 23rd measure." I probably did. And that again further highlights what we're saying. It's okay. And Barbara's loving this. That's awesome, Barb. Thank you for your support. Appreciate it. And let's see. Blake has just been having a conversation with Blakis about Vista 2. Test the Prophet. Haha, I wasn't expecting to find another orchestral nerd in here. Vista 2 is coming. Is that one of your programs there, Blake? And we've got Bit OV Foreign. I will say I love and truly love the sound of gospel and guitar, but as an atheist, the divinity of the art leaves me lacking, and I would pose the music is truly beautiful. Look, well said, and you are welcome here, by the way. I remember listening to, who was it? Someone did a YouTube clip. They also were an atheist, and they were talking about the awe that they feel and experience as they look into the universe. And I think that's what you were saying there, that you don't need the dogma bits. And part of falling in love with this improvisational kind of concept that I'm putting out there, arriving at a point where you can go into a zone and enjoy what you've learned without thinking about it, that needs no dogma and applies to every human on the planet, to find that awe-inspiring place where life feels more abundant, minus all the dogma. And James Andres writes, the law is the schoolmaster that drives you to improvisational heaven. I love it. Very good. Test the Prophet writes, by the way, everyone, go and as soon as we finish this program, go and look up on YouTube, Test the Prophet. Your mind will be blown if you just set some time aside and listen, watch the presentations. That those who play from the heart, even imperfect in music theory, create some beautiful pieces. So true. I love the beautiful moments that arise that may have been in a milieu of a jam session with other musicians, finding their way, making mistakes, but these moments of chemistry and getting lost, and something just jumps out, and it's just so beautiful to behold. When you can experience being around people that are loving improvisational music, loving the gospel, that's why I love our weekly gospel programs, because I can sense the people who are sharing it love it, and I get caught up in that as well. So I'm so glad we've started doing those weekly programs, and I apologize again for not having one this week, but next week we will be back. Hal will be in the house, and I'm just seeing, what did he mention we were going to talk about? Oh, it's a good one. Where is it? Anyway, I'll have to find that later. Okay. This is a very good point. Thank you, Marie. We must love with the same innocent, sweet love of a child. And as I said, with my daughter playing her guitar that I was just playing there last night, and she sang me this song and played. And yes, there were mistakes flowing here and there, but her face, her eyes were closed and she was beaming as she was singing. You know, she's 11. She's the age I was when I started playing guitar. And it so excites me to see that she grasps this falling in love with this instrument, with something in life that she can learn and transfer to so many other things. Sir Nilo, Peter, lunchtime with the sandwich, ready to hear some Spanish guitar. I wish I'd read that earlier. I love a bit of Spanish guitar. I love, there's something I learned where you play your little finger down and then you have to roll it around and just keep it going. And that took a while to master that law. But when you do, you don't then try and go, okay, I've got it. Here we go. I'm doing it. You just go, Ooh, yeah, 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 go. A bit of Spanish there for you, Sir Nilo. So much fun. Sometimes mistakes enhance the beauty of something. Yeah, I just loved having a jam there with the Spanish thing, jumping into some blues. Mistakes flew everywhere, but hopefully you grasped. Oh, this is fun. This is meaningful. This is something of meaning to my life. Adventist work routinely shows Jesus pointing the Ten Commandments. In the true gospel, it's the Ten Commandments that point to Jesus. Boy, hot wax. Well said. This is very good. I'm glad I'm reading some of these. Hot wax. I love this. Jesus takes the pressure for a perfect performance off. That is so good. That is gold. That is gold. And I have to admit that Jimi Hendrix, flawed individual that he was, showed that to me. The pressure was taken off when I saw him play and saw the joy he had in playing. The pressure was taken off of me to have a perfect performance. And that led to a true understanding of my connection with guitar and with music and life. And then I was able to reverse that and look at that as it applied to Adventism and how the pressure was on to have the right performance. If you watch the 7 Questions program, the reason people don't come on, pastors won't come on and talk about their beliefs and answer those questions, is because the pressure is on. Boy, here, look, here's a gold star. I'll pass it through. Wow, that is good. Do you agree, those watching? Jesus takes the pressure for a perfect performance off. It was worth doing today just to read that. Oh, here's another beauty. You guys are amazing. Love overcomes weakness and imperfection. Rick writes, yeah, those kind of performances are robotic. Oh, there's a gold. No auto-tune for you, Peter. Got to be sinless on the instrument. Oh, yeah. So true. Live at Monterey. Killing Floor was insane. So true, Rick. And yeah, no music formal training with Jimmy. And I had the formal training up to the point for maybe a year of just chords, strumming, and some songs. But when I witnessed the Jimi Hendrix, no pressure, enjoy your music, no pressure to have a perfect performance, mind blown time, we moved and I didn't ever have lessons again, occasionally here and there. So my complete exploration into improvising and music was not with formal training. And Parade Orange writes, yes, the flow, we surrender to it. Oh, this is great too. Boy, there's some brilliant things today that you guys are saying. Thank you. Don't look at the handles while you're riding. Look ahead. Brilliant. Sometimes if I'm doing a solo and there's an audience and the band's playing and you're just lost in it and you think about it too much and you start looking down at your hands, because that's the other thing. Improvising, you're often not looking. You look down, you're looking at handlebars, you come off, you crash. And that's like it for Adventists who are looking at the law and the commandments. They're looking at the handlebars, Mark. Well said. Rick says, Buddy Guy's insanely good and he makes so many mistakes. I know. I got to see him live at, what's the famous place in New York? Famous concert hall. I saw Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers and Buddy Holly was the support act. Live at only the most popular venue in the world. And Rick highlights that, yeah, that's church right there. Oh, so true. So true. Boy, you lot are inspiring me today, as always. I remember hearing a pastor preaching on Jesus' parable of the talents and saying that only 100 times talent is good enough. 30 and 60 was a failure. So sad, isn't it? So sad. But we've all been there. And then even when you get to a point where you're grasping some of this good stuff, there's still all sorts of life hassles. But something shifts and you flow through life like water to a rock. A young Herbie Hancock once played the wrong chord while accompanying Miles Davis, but Miles instantaneously made it the right chord. Yes, James, great. That's what Jesus does for us continually and invariably. That's so true. He's got our back. Here's the great Miles Davis. I can imagine Herbie Hancock hitting the wrong chord and Miles just shifting down, bringing the whole band in behind that and just supporting in behind him. Brilliant. Thanks, James. The sun shines on the just and unjust. Jesus loves us wherever we are on the spectrum. Yes. And Rick adds, and Adventism scarred a lot of us. Yeah. Allow abundant life to flow. A lot of you scanned this a few minutes ago, so I'll just leave it up for a minute while I'm reading the questions. I'd love if you wanted to go and check it out. You'll hear Blake Robinson writing in the comments here as Blakeus. Just realising there's lots of comments over here on Facebook as well, which I'm missing. Sorry about that. Some brilliant ones over there too. I'll go and read them later. If you wanted to hear Blake's incredible orchestration on this album, Blake took my raw songs and added stuff, cello, strings, drums, just beautiful. And other band members were in there as well. But Blake, can we do Standing at the Cross Volume 2 before I leave this mortal coil? You do me mates rates. And Barry Ford just arrived. I just got in and I missed your sermon. Barry, I hope you go back and I hope you get to see some of the comments. There's some gold in them there hills. And Stephen Beagles writes, Jesus is my lead guitarist. His music covers my mistakes. I love how Stephen Beagles is an Adventist and he's trying to tease out the gems of gospel Adventism. And he would come on the program and discuss my 7 questions. And Parade Orange, I love Spanish guitar. I hope you enjoyed my little improvisational thing there earlier. And Andy Mack noticed that I did a little bit of syncopation. Oh no. Andy writes, the pressure is off. And you know what? People will watch this and they'll say, oh, pressure's off. You're just going to sin now, do whatever you want. The pressure is off. I could make as many mistakes as I wanted on the guitar. Yeah, but you don't want to. Like, why would you want to? Why go against the laws of the beautiful nature that is in the whole um, realm of music? There's nature, there's themes, there's law that can't be broken. Well, they can be because you're free to break them. The pressure's off. But why would you want to? When you love the guitar and you put your time in, you're headed towards harmony and expression and beauty and this release into liberation that you could get. You're not trying to make your life cacophonic and discordant. So people will say, "Oh, pressure's off. Once saved, always saved." Anyway, Albert Hall. No, it wasn't Albert Hall. Where was it? It wasn't Carnegie. And it was New York. Live. Tom Petty and Buddy Holly live. Why can't I remember that? And Rick saw Buddy at Montreal Jazz Festival. Wow. Would have been fantastic. Thank you, everybody, so much for watching today and joining in. I've enjoyed it. And warts and all, there it was. My improvised conversation about improvised guitar playing. And I hope you all enjoyed it. If you'd like to support what I'm doing, feel free to jump over there to PayPal. Full disclosure, I've made $16 this week, $16 Australian. And that's okay. But if you've got $1 or $2 to spare, you can go over to paypal.me/Peter Dixon Music or paypal.com/PayPal.me/Peter Dixon Music. Or you can scan this code. But yeah, every little bit helps. So thank you so much for your support. Thank you again for your comments. Look forward to seeing you next week. I won't be here for the rest of this week. So watch tomorrow. Just tune in, same time, and go and watch the 7 questions program. The 7 questions an ordained, currently employed pastor cannot or will not answer publicly. Go and check that out in the time slot you would normally watch tomorrow's program. I will try and have a gospel program maybe in the last on the Thursday Pacific time, Friday lunchtime, but it's very unlikely. Next week, Brendan Valiant, Timur Kukolya, Bill Fritz, and we've got, I just wanted to say what it was. Hal Southwell will be talking briefly about the gospel is the flame that drives a passion for worship. That's brilliant. So that's next week. Thank you, everyone. Here's an ironic thought to close with. Rick says that leaving Adventism brought him closer to Jesus. And Barbara T said, nailed it. See you, everybody. See you soon. Take care. Can't wait to catch up again. See ya.